Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us. If you're new here, welcome. And if you've been with us before, welcome back. We are the Fifth Meeple, a podcast where five diverse friends offer our takes on the latest and hottest games to hit our table. I'm your host, Emerson, the wild card. And joining me at the table today is the Goofy Noob.
Hey guys, it's Daniela. What's up?
The Collector.
Hey, this is David. Can I buy that game off you?
The Underdog.
Hey, it's Emily.
And the Intellectual Introvert.
Hi, everybody. This is Chris.
Sit for a spell and enjoy a brew. Boy, do we have a spooky show for you. Today's episode is centered around, well, if you haven't guessed it already, Halloween.
Creepy.
I'm scared.
Chris did it.
The two games in our lineup today will be Horrified, where we work together to rid a town of 7 different maniacal monsters, and Betrayal at House on the Hill, where we work together to explore a haunted house until one of us betrays the group. Then the rest of the group must work together to defeat or possibly save the betrayer before it's too late. And after that, as always, we'll face them off against each other in our head-to-head battle of the funnest and see which one will take home the crown. Will it be the betrayer you just saved in your group or the villagers you just saved in their town? But before we get into any of that, Emily, would you like to tell our listeners about this week's poll?
All right, last week, Fifth Meeple ran a poll asking board gamers like you, have you ever used a board game as inspiration for your Halloween costume? 163 of you guys voted. 12% of you guys said yes. James said, we once had a Halloween party based around Clue. Sounds like one of those mystery dinners that you invite your friends over for. That'd be
cool.
fun.
That would be
and
a
then
fun one.
Yeah, and then Sean said we did steampunk Clue characters. So that's
It's like a
fun, too.
mixture of maybe like Barrage and Clue, because I feel like Barrage had a steampunk
Yeah, for
thing
sure.
to
For
it.
sure.
What's that scythe game? That would probably go with it too.
Yeah.
Jerry said, one year I was the farmer from Takanoko. I wish we had pictures because that was probably like really cute. The farmer from Takanoko.
Right.
Yeah, probably.
Act like Nicole actually did include a picture.
Oh.
Can you show them, Emerson? She was Quirkle. She used Quirkle as inspiration. Has anybody played Quirkle before?
No, Chris has.
I definitely have played Quirkle
Yes,
before,
I
and I
played.
saw the picture
see
that
the
she
picture?
posted. I
Was
did.
it-
That was a great costume.
Was it? Okay.
Very well done. Yeah, very well
Good job,
done.
Nicole. Karen said, I did dress up as a D20 once.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
That's fun.
That
The
is pretty
question
cool.
is, did she just kind of roll around all
Yeah.
day, right? Just, and anytime someone said, roll for crit, she
I'd
just
be
kinda
like,
rolls.
this is how many personalities I have.
Yeah.
Pick one.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Nicole went all out. She did a really good
Teletubby.
job. Yeah.
Good job.
You think? Oh, yeah, I didn't notice that.
I think the real question is, if only 12% of us did it, how do we get that percentage up?
Well, I was thinking this. I was planning out my next board game inspired Halloween costume, and I was like, I should be a bird from Wingspan, and then my dog could be the little egg. Like, how cute.
Yeah, I think, we can go around the table if you guys feel like you have a costume or an idea. I think just throwing it out there, probably a race car driver from Downforce. So what I would do.
I was thinking I didn't purposely do it, but I certainly was a vampire at some point, and we're going to talk about a game today where there was a vampire in it. And so I guess I could maybe claim that I did it, but
Yeah.
just not on purpose.
Yeah.
Being the newer person to board games, so this is odd. I actually, when I was little, dressed up as Queen Frostine from Candyland.
Okay.
I was
yeah.
playing that game a lot growing up, and I wanted to be her. She was cool. She had like candy and treats and was frosting and like all this other stuff. And my mom worked tirelessly. Thank you, Mom, for making me an outfit. It was very cool.
Is that the one with the pink hair?
Yeah.
So was it like Whippy Dip's mom?
Oh my gosh! Wait till we
Whippy
talk
dip.
about there. We're going there. I already had it in my head driving over here. Yeah.
Nice.
What about you, David?
Oh, man. I don't really dress up. I mean, but if I had to, I guess the guy from Smartphone Inc. on the cover.
Okay.
Just looking all smart.
Businessman?
Yeah.
Phone
There you
So
dork.
just a pair of glasses, a suit, and just be
Yeah.
on your phone the whole time?
Yeah, because when I was growing up, I used to just throw on a cape and I grabbed a hockey stick and I was like, oh, I'm a haunted hockey player. That's literally, I was like
I can
3
see that,
Halloweens in a
yeah.
row. It was a good time.
Nice. I think my favorite costume when I was younger, I dressed up as half man, half woman. And so just from, straight down from head to toe,
Oh my God.
my mom made my costume where it was a dress on one side, it was pants on another, makeup on one side, etc. And so it didn't go off real big. People didn't really know what I was, but
We need a
I knew.
picture.
I know.
Yeah.
There is a picture out there.
I wonder
There
what
is
that
a picture out there
I
somewhere.
wonder kind of what response you'd get. And
If we get
like
so many
today.
follows, I think we should release that somewhere.
Yeah, that's in our Substack, or what do you call that?
Patreon.
Patreon.
I know my favorite was growing up. I went as Joe Montana, so the quarterback from the 49ers.
Nice.
I think we all have probably a default. So obviously yours, David, is the haunted hockey player. Mine's always Cruella DeVille.
Oh yeah,
Have the hair, have everything for
Oh,
it.
nice.
nice.
I've revived that since I was little to like my 20s and my 30s. So
You got to get that candy.
yeah, gotta get those puppies.
Did you ever dress up, Emily?
My favorite was a ballerina, and I had this like huge little bun on top of my head and a tutu.
Oh,
I don't know if that's board game inspired though. Haven't played a ballerina game yet.
I'm sure there's one out there.
Oh my gosh, my dog has so many Halloween costumes.
I think my dog as well has more costumes
Yeah.
than my kids ever had.
Yeah.
Hey everyone, Daniela here. Before we get started, we'd like to ask that you take a second just to hit the subscribe button so you never miss a show. As we look to grow this channel and community, we'd really enjoy the opportunity to engage with you, the listener. Please leave any feedback you feel would be helpful to us and share this episode to help grow our channel. Lastly, we'd love for you to follow us on Facebook and Instagram, both at Fifth Meeple, where you can vote in our weekly polls, just like we talked about, and see what we're kind of playing and stuff. We also have a new BGG Guild that's found at the Fifth Meeple, and our number there is 4269. You can also visit our website at fifthmeeple.com or email us directly, thefifthmeeple@gmail.com. And as always, we just thank you for your support. We hope you guys enjoy this episode of The Fifth Meeple.
In Horrified, your town has been taken over by classic movie monsters, and you and your hero friends must work together to defeat them before the entire town flees in terror. Horrified is a co-op game for 1 to 5 players that typically takes about an hour to play. All right, thanks, Dracula. Horrified includes 7 different monsters to wreak havoc on your town, including my friend Dracula, the creature from the Black Lagoon, the Mummy, the Wolfman, the Invisible Man, and Frankenstein and his bride. Each monster has a unique way to defeat it, and you can play with any combination of 2 to 4 monsters, depending on your desired level of difficulty. Play takes place on a game board depicting a small town. On your turn, you can move around town, guide villagers to safety, pick up or share various items, or take steps toward defeating the monsters. Defeating monsters typically involves using items in a variety of ways to advance a task, after which a special action can be taken to defeat that monster. After a player takes their turn, a monster card is drawn that adds items to the board and controls the monster's actions, including movement and attacks. These attacks are simulated by rolling custom dice and, if unable to offset these attacks by discarding items, the terror level of the village increases. Villagers may also be added to the board, which the heroes then need to protect and guide to safety. If all of the monsters are defeated, the players win and the village returns to normal. However, if the terror level maxes out or the monster deck runs dry, everyone flees the village as the screen goes dark and the credits roll. Horrified was designed by Prospero Hall and was released by Ravensburger in 2019.
Thank you, Chris. So before we get into any of this, I wanted to ask, did anybody get horrified while playing this game? Did anybody worry about the terror track reaching the limit and us all potentially dying?
Yes, because didn't that happen? Yeah, it was pretty spooky.
It did.
Yeah, the second game we played together, it definitely happened, and it happened
Yeah.
hard.
It did happen
happened
hard.
really hard. I think the first game, though, too, even though we ended up winning that first game, we had some tension as far as what was going to happen with that terror track as well.
And I know, Chris, you made a comment when we played that you felt like the more players you play with, the faster and the easier the terror track goes up. So you might be inclined to say that the difficulty of the game in general is harder with the more people you play.
Yeah, I actually played this game a lot solo, multi-handed, and I played at various player counts. And I just think, when you take a move, you don't get to move your person again until it's your turn again. And so if there's 5 people, you have to go through 5 turns, which means 5 monster movements before you can just get out of the way. And so you become very vulnerable to the monster turn. And that's especially true at the start where you haven't done anything yet, haven't been able to even kind of position yourself safely, and you can get hammered.
Yeah, so there were two ways of playing it, right? There was an easier version and a standard version. So the easier version, you don't actually set your player out onto the map until you've taken your first turn.
Correct. That's a variant that kind of, prevents that initial wham before you've even started. And then, of course, the number of monsters you put on the board at the same time controls difficulty as well.
The first game that we played, we had 2 monsters, the Creature of the Black Lagoon and Dracula.
Yeah, that was like the standard, the base, right?
Yeah, that's what was suggested as your first game. Okay, everybody, did anybody have any pros about this game? Like the artwork, the game setup, the characters, anything like that?
I loved the game board. A lot of these spooky themed games are just, the coloring is really drab and dull. There'll be like shades of black and gray and dark blue. But in the Horrified game board, the pathways you travel along are so well marked. They're like bright gold color.
They're described as lighted pathways, so I think this is a town at the night. But that theme then helps you very easily see, okay, where can I move, where can I not? So that does work well.
Yeah, the theme was laid out, I think, really well. It was clear to know where you could move from, the waterways in the lagoons where the creature could move from, very well marked out. You knew when you were up in certain corners in different areas where you had to go. There were a lot of places when characters came out that we had to place the villagers and things like that, and that was a little, not like frustrating or anything like that, but it was, there's quite a few spots that people can go and play and do, and which kind of makes it more interesting too when the monsters come out, because you can only move along certain paths and things like that. So there's no real cheating, there's no real getting around it. You're not, unless you have an ability, right? Some of the people had abilities, you could zoom people certain places and stuff like that. But yeah, I agree with Emily. I really like the parts of this. I like the bright yellows and the blues that were used, and even the character cards were pretty nice too.
Yeah, for me, I think my favorite part of this game, and I know we didn't get to test all the monsters, but was just that mini puzzle that every monster is. I think that helps, definitely make the game different. We can mix and match monsters up, get different challenges, but I actually enjoyed some of the mini games that we had to conquer in order to defeat a monster. And I think that variability helped. My second biggest thing I liked about this game was just the fact that you can play at different levels, kind of like we were alluding to. We played the game a couple times as a group, and the first time we played it more as your basic kind of vanilla setup, and we ended up winning. And then I decided that I wanted to up the ante with the group, so we actually played 3 monsters the second time, and we got slaughtered. But I had more fun that time, so it just depends, because Emily was screaming half the time, "I'm going back to the hospital." So to me that kind of made that game really fun, just because I think we were in the hospital most of the game. At least my character was as well.
Yeah, the monster puzzles really added a lot to the game. It was a lot of fun doing that. And like you said, the mix and match, there's so much playability to this game because there's 7 monsters. You could do any combination of them.
Yeah, and I think for at least the specific puzzle, the mummy puzzle, Daniela and Chris, I think you two specifically enjoyed that puzzle.
Yeah, but I will say there were a lot of things that needed to be done on that specific puzzle to actually win that, which I guess we'll get into at some point, of just a little bit of the crunchiness probably of some of these.
But the mummy was, of that second game we played where we were playing against 3 monsters, the mummy was the one we almost beat. We had that one figured out. And actually, I think one of the things I like about the game is you can lose and still have fun, because there is fun in losing in some cases. And this was a case where we had 3 monsters out there, 3 tough ones. At least we put the Invisible Man out there. That guy's a jerk. We'll talk about him later. Right? That was tough. But we had set ourselves up to where, okay, we've got the mummy where we want him. We're not going to win the game. Terror level sitting at 6 or 7, whatever the almost max is. But we're going to at least take out the mummy. Right? And we set it all up, figure out the next 2 turns, got it all figured out, pull a monster card, and out comes this stupid villager that pops right in front of the mummy. And immediately thereafter, the mummy ghost kills him and the game's over. And it was like just a perfect, oh crap moment for a game, I thought.
Yeah, and I think to kind of touch back on the theme, you did mention the Invisible Man. So when we drew a monster card and it was related to the Invisible Man, he would, out of nowhere, just come and grab a crap ton of items in one spot. And you're like, oh no. But I think thematically it fit perfectly.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's just that shadow that's moving around, that's taking the colors or the points that you need, that you're trying to stack up and get back to another area. And oddly enough, I thought we moved up faster on the terror track playing the vanilla side versus the second game that we played, where we had more monsters out. I thought we were going to just go out real fast, but then I thought we kind of mitigated the second game Terror Track a little bit better, which I was like,
Yeah.
and then again, the Villager came out and I was like,
Yeah.
no.
So you're talking about mitigating, and I know, David, you really love games with decision making. So to kind of, before, bringing it to you, so we kind of touched base on the items. So if there are items on the board and you can collect them, you have the decision of when a monster card is drawn and we're going through the monster phase and we're rolling dice to see if we take a hit from the monster. Instead of taking a hit and going to the hospital and respawning at the hospital, you could also choose to trade in an item to not take the hit and move up on the terror track. So David, what were your thoughts on the decision making in this game?
Yeah, I mean, the decision making, kind of like you just described it. I mean, I thought it was interesting. It's definitely more, I think, it's a little bit more of a gateway game in that respect. It's do this or do that. You kind of have one or two choices mostly, but there are ways to mitigate some of the stuff. I think it is hard, kind of like we were talking earlier. You can't, there's a lot of randomness. I think that's, if we get onto our frustrations a little bit, part of my frustration with this game was just a little bit of that randomness was too random, especially with 5 players, kind of like Chris was alluding to earlier. I think because you don't get to go, you have to wait 5 people, then the monster's turns. There's a lot that can happen before you can take a next turn. So even if you have the right items and stuff, sometimes you never get to really use them, or maybe somebody gets killed that you're going to give it to. So there's just a lot that can happen in between that space. So I think sometimes I can see what Chris was saying. If you had a smaller player count, that some of that randomness is more mitigated, where I feel like as a 5-person thing, I felt like the decision space for my character, it was more dictated by the situation, not necessarily by what always I wanted to do.
So you're talking about randomness, and I got to ask the group, do you feel like this game really struck you with the idea of it being a co-op? Did you strongly feel like this was a co-op game?
This one, yes.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, because we got to work together. Everybody had a different ability that we could kind of like decide, okay, Danielle has this ability. It'd be perfect if she could do this on her turn, and then I could follow back with my ability because I can do this.
Mm-hmm.
So the co-op really shone in this game more so than the next game that we'll talk about.
Yeah, I was a little worried about potential downtime waiting for my turn with 5 people. Again, having played this, every other play I'd ever played was just me playing multiple characters. And so I'm always curious then when we put several people around a table, how much downtimes are going to be. I thought we worked really well together in talking that out. There was a little bit of quarterbacking, but I don't think it was too bad to where we all still felt like we were taking our turn, but we were definitely working together to figure out what to do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and sometimes people are going to be the sacrificial lamb in it all. It's just the way the cards are drawn, or the person that you have and their powers, or whatever you're working on with that that specific card that you have just works out. So
The other thing that I'll say, as the guy who brought this to the table and did the teach, I thought, at least, I'm curious to hear you all's opinion, I thought it was a relatively easy teach. We got up and running relatively quickly. And so, hey, if you're looking for a game to bring out at your Halloween party that people can learn quickly and get into it, that's also not going to be that long of a game. I think the 2 games we played together were an hour. I thought that was a pretty good game to do a quick teach, get it running.
Agreed.
Yeah, David mentioned that this is a gateway game, and I would agree with both you, Chris, and David that this was a very simple game.
I think it's relatively straightforward once you do that teach. Hey, you can do these 4 things, very gateway type, but there is a lot going on at the same time. So I feel like you feel like there's a lot going on, even though your decision space is somewhat limited.
Yeah, I would definitely say the monsters themselves, just because it's like an AI, it's very streamlined. And so, you can do it really quickly, especially once you get it down. It's pretty fast. And so I always look for that, especially because it's an AI kind of component to that game. How much is involved, to get that bot or that computer opponent we're playing, how much does it take for you to actually have them go? And so in this case, I felt like it was definitely very streamlined. It was easy, to definitely do it. I think anybody in this room could, pull that off if they were to teach it.
yeah, I think people might come intimidated because there are a lot of parts to it. You had quite a few cubbies that held different tokens and things like that, and we were looking for different things. But the bag was great. That kept all the tiles in it. That was easy to use. The longest teach probably on this for my personal, like if I was going to take this to like a game night or something, would just be the monsters, understanding what each of them do and what you need to do to complete to wipe that monster out and where you need to go, and making sure everybody's on the same page. So
And I think one of the reasons they tell you start with these 2 monsters when it's Dracula and Creature from the Black Lagoon is those are 2 relatively straightforward monsters.
yeah,
And so they are the easiest ones to teach. I think if I was bringing this out to a group, I would go with that recommendation of go with those 2 monsters.
Absolutely. So I know we kind of touched base. A couple of people have already mentioned the villagers. So we're going to transition into our frustrations. And one of my frustrations, I'm sure, just like everyone else at this table, was that the villagers were really just pointless. The villagers served a purpose of the game. We could choose to save a villager and transport them to their safe location. And if we did that, we got a perk card, and that perk card helped us down the line if the monsters came and tried to attack us. But in the long run, like I think David had already mentioned, was, you're super close to defeating somebody, or you're super close to defeating a monster, but then a villager spawns randomly in the monster's path, and the terror track is 2 or 1 spaces away. And then the thing about the villagers is they have no way of defending themselves. As I've already mentioned, we had the choice to defend ourselves by turning in an object, but the villagers have no objects and no way to defend themselves, so they got to take the hit and you're moving up on the track. So that was a big frustration of mine.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but saving the villager or transporting them to their safe location was the only way to get a perk card, besides the perk card you started the game with, correct?
Correct. That's how you get the other one.
Yeah, that was frustrating for me because I never got a perk card after the one we started the game with, because you first you got to go travel to the villager, then you got to take them all the way back. It could be completely the opposite direction of where you want to go to get the monster.
But I think that is a tight balance. Again, as someone who's played this a lot, those perk cards can be very powerful, especially if you kind of pair one with another. When you're close to defeating a monster, it kind of mitigates, if you will, that, the monster's going to take a turn. I don't know what's going to happen. You're kind of stringing 2-3 turns together. You can really pound them out. And so I think if it made it too easy to get a perk, then you end up making it maybe a little bit too easy of the game. So I think it's a balance, but I can see where it would be frustrating as well.
But I think, too, to Emily's point, to me, there were a couple extra unnecessary steps to do things. Like it takes a while to get to a villager and then get them all the way back to where they're supposed to go. There was the same frustration I had with the mummy, right? You're supposed to take all the scarabs and you're trying to sort them out on the
puzzle board.
Yeah, on the puzzle board. Thank you. And then the first time we were doing that, you have to flip the scarabs over and then they get hidden and then you have to flip them back over. I was like, it's hard enough to move these around to get them in the right order, and I got to flip them upside down and then flip them back over. So to me, that was my biggest frustration, I felt like hiccups in too many extra steps. And I'm not trying to say that because it's like, I want to win and I want to get this out there. But it was just, there were a couple things I was just like, come on. We're right there. You only get 6 on the terror track. Come on.
Yeah, I mean, to me, my biggest frustration with this game was that the way that we actually dealt out our character cards, we actually did it randomly. So, and then the way we were seated, sometimes I wish we could have gone back in time and looked at our player powers and sat at a different combination than we were actually on, because me and Daniela, I was on the right side of her, so my character always had to go before hers. And if we would have reversed that, there was moves that we could have pulled on the map that would have greatly helped us, just because of how our characters would combo off of each other. Like her character could go anywhere she wanted on the board, and my character could move a character up to 3 spaces from wherever they were. So if we sat in the other order, it would have been a lot more helpful sometimes, I feel like, in some of the things that we could have done and the combos that we could have pulled off were better. So I don't know, Chris, I know you play this game a lot. Are there characters that combo better when you just play by yourself, or because it seemed like it when we were playing that some characters could combo better with others?
I think if you're playing by yourself, it's the same challenge. What order are they in? And I always just take it however it comes out. And again, I'll take a loss. I'm okay with that. I think I've talked with the group about Eldritch Horror. That's another game that could have been fit into here, except I don't know if you guys would ever be willing to play it. I think I've described it as it's a game that will kick you in the groin about 100 times. And then once you fall, it'll come and kick you again. And if you end up dying, it'll be kicking you in your coffin. I mean, it's a brutal game. And you take joy almost. I do. I take joy in, oh my gosh, that was such a brutal loss. And then when you eventually get a win, you figure it out. But I guess from that standpoint, I kind of welcome the fact that, hey, it's thematic. The villagers they're not going to act like you want them to act. They're going to freak out. They're going to come out of their house. They're going to see a monster. They're going to freeze, and then they're going to die.
Well, and that was part of the big letdown, right? Like we're there, we're getting ready to kill a mummy. We're getting ready to do all this other stuff. And it was like, oh man, like
Yeah,
just
but let
it's,
down for you.
it's over. It's
Glorious for me. I was like, that's perfect.
Right, like-
That's a horror movie.
Darlene, get back in your house. Go watch TV again. Like, you just ruined it.
Yeah, I said it earlier, but the Invisible Man is a jerk.
Yeah.
And if I look on BGG to see, hey, what do people say about this game? And I've seen many times people just saying exactly that. The Invisible Man is a jerk, and I think that's a guy we never should have pulled out for a 3-player game for people that are playing it the second time. It's a challenge. He's taking away items, and we're playing against 2 other monsters that you desperately need tons of items to be able to beat. I think the Wolfman, we didn't make any progress whatsoever, maybe 1 or something like that. So he's a jerk, and I think he's well known as a jerk. To me, he's the hardest monster in there of all the ones that I've played. The other frustration I had was just the villagers, the text on them. When they come out, you got to read on the villager, where does he start and where does he end?
Yeah.
And I'm 51. I can't see it. I gotta get the right angle on my glasses to be able to see where am I supposed to put this guy. And I thought they could have done that a little better. I like a lot of things about the game. That was just a frustration that was unneeded in the game.
Sponsor the Fifth Meeple for better lighting.
There you go.
So, Chris, you're talking about that you played this game multiple times. Have you played any of the other versions, the Greek version or the
American Monsters.
Yeah, American Monsters, Greek Monsters, or American Monsters?
Yeah, I have not. This is the regular one's the only one I had. I honestly think it's enough for me. My guess is they all have their own unique piece. If I was going to play one of the other ones, I would go Greek Monsters just because I really like mythology, and they're talking about Medusa, the Sirens, the Basilisk. That sounds pretty cool to me. I'd probably try that one as opposed to Bigfoot might be cool. The other ones I've barely heard of other than the Chupacabra. So,
Okay, folks, if you haven't been scared to death yet and you are interested in getting this game, David, would you like to tell them how much they can get this for?
Yeah, right now you can buy this game on Amazon. It's going for $39.99, and that's an okay price. This game's been around for a while. If you're looking at the secondary market, which is what I would recommend if you really want to get your hands on this game, if you don't care to buy used, you could probably get it somewhere between $20-$25 locally. I think that would probably be a good price in my estimation for what you're getting. But I think you have to like co-ops in order to want to get this game. But it is a good game to give as a gift if you're looking for something cool to do. Like Chris said, hey, you're looking for something cool to do on the holidays. You don't really want to get in fights necessarily with each other because you're competitive. Then this would be a game that I think you could pull out the table for a decent price point.
I did see the price actually went up here over the past week and a half. So I don't know if that's a Halloween phenomenon or what, but maybe demand's going up, so prices going up
Yeah,
too.
I do think that the original copy holds its value a little bit better than the American one. I think
Okay.
the American one you can get for a lot cheaper. In fact, it was on clearance a couple weeks ago in Target, but that's just kind of...
Maybe Amazon's
Something.
raising the price, and then for like the next couple of days, they're gonna slash it for that Amazon Prime Day, and then they'll be like, "Oh, deal!" You're like, we're out in front of it.
They would get me with that.
It is time for thumbs up or thumbs down. If we feel like this game plays well at a player count of 5, we'll give it a thumbs up. If we don't think this game plays well at 5, well then we'll give it a thumbs down. Chris, we'll start with you.
Yeah, I had a good time both of the times we played this. I've played it, again, solo, multi-handed, at all levels, including 5. It's a little tougher with 5, but still, I think that's just an extra challenge. You can dial it down with the monsters. I enjoyed this game. I think it played well with the co-op. All the times we played it, I would give this a thumbs up.
Yeah, I agree. I would give this thumbs up. I like co-ops. I thought it was fun playing together. We all kind of looked at each other's cards, our people, our personalities, as we were playing this, and just I think that really showed throughout the game. And so I give this a thumbs up too.
Yeah, for me, this was a little bit of a difficult one. I did enjoy the gameplay as far as co-ops, and if you know me, I don't really like co-ops. So I'm actually, though, going to have to give it a thumbs down. I'd rather play this at a lower player count. I think I'd have more fun, but that's just me. I think there's a little bit of downtime I didn't really like, and it could be a little bit slow getting back to you. But so to me, I would play it at a lower player count, not necessarily at 5 again.
I'm going to give it a thumbs up at 5. I liked seeing all the different abilities and how we worked together with our abilities within the game. And a lot happens between turns. And I know this was a con because like you're kind of stuck in your one spot. The monsters are moving a lot, but a lot happens between turns. You really have to pay attention to what others are doing. And so when it comes back to me, I was kind of like, okay, well, I see that they're going for this, so maybe I'll help jump on that and help them with their goal. I'm
going to go ahead and give Horrified a thumbs up as well, just simply from the social aspect of it. I think if you play with less players, it might actually create more tension. I'm not sure. I feel like when we played it with all 5, there really wasn't any tension because there were so many different decisions that we were all making, and we're kind of saying, okay, yeah, that sounds like a good idea. But if I'm playing it with maybe 2 other people, then it's kind of like, I don't know. I think maybe there'd be more tension. I'm not sure. Never done it before, but I'm going to go ahead and give this a thumbs up. It sounds like Horrified received 4 thumbs up and 1 thumbs down. Oh no! Frankenstein just broke out of the laboratory! Stick around and join us as we muster up the courage to explore a haunted house.
Betrayal at House on the Hill is a co-op tile-laying and exploration game where players explore a haunted house that they build themselves during the game, one room at a time. Eventually, the omens become too much to handle, causing one player to betray the others and initiate a battle to the death. Each player controls a unique character with varying levels of speed, might, sanity, and knowledge, all of which may change during the game. All players start at the entrance to the mansion and move about the house through available doors. Whenever a player passes through a door, they draw a new tile representing a room and place it adjacent to the door they entered, building out the house as they explore. Some rooms contain icons prompting the entering player to draw from one of 3 decks, which may provide the player with useful items to take with them, prompt events to occur, or present various omens that may be linked to the impending tragedy. As the omens mount, it becomes more and more likely that a haunt will occur as determined by a die roll each time an omen is revealed. When the haunt occurs, one of the players becomes a traitor and, sometimes quite literally, all hell breaks loose. From that point forward, the traitor plays against the other players. Both the heroes and the traitor have secret win conditions as defined by one of 50 different haunt scenarios, which may also include the addition of monsters to the map or the adoption of special powers. During the haunt, players may attack each other and can die and be eliminated from the game. The game ultimately ends when either the traitor or the heroes accomplish their secret goal. Betrayal at House on the Hill was designed by Bruce Glasgow and was first published in 2004 by Avalon Hill.
Thank you, Chris. So before we start talking about this game, let's just point out the obvious. This game, just like Horrified, is a co-op game, but as Chris mentioned, sometime during the game, it is not so much co-op. So what were everyone's thoughts on just that aspect where someone in this group becomes the betrayer, and now, if you're playing with a group of 5, now 4 out of the 5 are still working together, but there's that one person, there's that oddball in that game.
I didn't feel like it was co-op so much as other co-ops I've played before. I felt like we all took our own turns. We were all going our own ways. Sometimes I would find an item and it works well with maybe David has an item that we can pair up together. So I'd give it to him. So that was kind of co-op. But otherwise, I kind of felt like I played my part pretty solo.
You felt like it was a little bit more solitaire?
Yeah.
Okay. What about everyone else?
I think it was a different type of co-op. We were trying to accomplish the same thing. We were not working together as much. And I think that's what you're saying. I think maybe once I dropped an item so someone could pick it up. I think we ended up doing that. I know we talked about it. And we talked about, but I don't know if it ever worked out, moving the magic elevator with Mystic Elevator, whatever that was called. I don't know if that ever actually worked out for us, but we at least had the idea of doing it. But I agree, for the most part, it was kind of doing your own thing, trying to accomplish the same goal.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it was pretty thematic. I mean, we're all kind of a group of friends, right? We're going into this house. Everybody's kind of just doing their own thing for the first half of the game. I mean, I don't really think there's a co-op element to that part of the game. You're just kind of hoping you go into a room and get an item, which they didn't appear very often. But, that's kind of part of the fun, I think, is, you're kind of doing that, and then somebody kind of gets possessed or something halfway through, and you're like, oh, crap. So as far as the story element goes kind of to the game, I would agree with you. I don't know if it's much as a normal co-op in that sense until the second half of the game when you actually have a goal.
I guess the explore, like if you're exploring a haunted house with your friends, you're all going to split up and explore different rooms and stuff. So I mean, it is very much a story game. There is a ton of reading in this game. Yeah, lots of story to it. So if you like that, you'll love this.
I think we are playing out a scary movie. It just like you guys have just said, a group of friends go to a haunted house. We don't know what the heck we're doing. We're just willy-nilly exploring this house, and then one of us, does something wrong, or that. There's always that comic relief character in a scary movie. One of us is that, and then we get possessed, or we become the betrayer, not even knowing that we're the betrayer. I know I was the betrayer the first game that we played. I was just sleeping, right? My character actually just fell asleep.
That was a rather boring one there.
Yeah, I was scared to sleep.
Pretty accurate, though.
And I think that's why I would have liked that to come through a little bit more.
Okay.
I understand what everybody's saying. I really would have liked to have felt that snap in the game of here's the betrayer, right now. This is what we're going into. But instead, there's that weird lull that we'll probably get to of, well, we're coming out of the rooms, we're doing this and that. It wasn't as fluid and seamless as I would have liked to have seen a game like this played out. I think the overall theme and the idea is really, really cool. I like that we're all working together, and then, someone is touched.
So the haunt happens, and then all of a sudden we have to take a 15-minute break while we figure out what we're supposed to do. Yeah.
And this isn't to take away from this game and the original idea of this game, because I think it's great.
Yeah.
But it kind of reminds me of those exit games or a real life escape room, right? You're all in this one spot or whatever. You all have this objective, and you're all working together with different clues, different objects, whatever it may be, and you're all trying to accomplish the one common goal. So I think that's also pretty cool. I don't know if anybody else kind of saw that connection or felt that way about this game. But going into our best moments of this game, I think for me personally, the best moment of this game was not having to be the betrayer.
I got to be the betrayer in that second game. I enjoyed the heck out of that, but I had a much more fun betrayer role than just sleeping.
Well, there's that. I think you did it a lot better than I did. And I think that also adds into maybe a frustration that we can talk about a little later, but the rules were more clear for you because you read both rule books, which I did not. So I did not, for those of you who are listening, have only played this game 3 times. When we played it and I was the betrayer, this was my second time playing, and the first time that I played, I was unlucky enough to be the betrayer as well, had no idea what I was doing. And this game that we played, I was the betrayer again. Thought, oh, okay, let's give it a second try. Maybe I'll, have a better understanding because I've been playing games longer. Still didn't know what the heck I was doing, just to find out that there was a whole other rule book that I had to read.
The main gameplay?
Yeah, I think it was in the main game rule book that you had to read to understand about the monster.
So when you're the betrayer, you have to have the main gameplay game book plus the betrayal,
the haunt book.
But the monsters always move the same way, but you got to know that. And I think if you played it enough, you would know it. But on a first play through, that was tough.
Yeah, especially as in a co-op, right? You're bringing people to the table. You're trying to help them understand, and like if they get that, I mean that's a lot. But
it's a buzzkill.
Yeah, I'm not. But I think I like the positives.
We're talking about positives here.
So
come on, people.
It was so fun.
So for the positives, I like the theme. Emerson, you already touched on it. You're in a haunted house. You don't know what you're doing. The tile flipping element of that really, I did not even realize it until you just said it. It's you don't know where you're going. You're flipping things over. Where am I at now? What am I doing? Part of Chris's game when he was the haunted person was he's looking for windows. So you're a lot more aware of different things as you're flipping tiles over, depending on what's going on in the game. You've got different little symbols on them that either give you omens or what were some of the other items and things like that. So
events. Yep.
Yeah, events. And so that was interesting. And again, just working together. Hey, where should I put this a little bit, right? Like you're trying to understand, but again, I'm not really sure that the placement of some tiles when you're going through it before the haunt really matter at that time, because it doesn't matter where a room is butted up next to someone else. Because if Emily's down on the ground floor and I'm in the basement or something, that wasn't really that co-op portion of it did not come through, I think, but I still like that idea of discovering different spaces, rooms.
I know there were some rooms in this game that if you either passed through that room or you ended your turn in that room, you would able to increase your trait, whether it be mental or physical. And I thought that was cool, but I don't think we saw a lot during the games that we played. So it makes me wonder, for those of you that have played this more often, are there more than 2 rooms that do that, or are they pretty rare?
They're pretty rare.
Okay.
I think the second time we played, we had almost all the tiles out.
Yeah.
I think at the end, when the haunt happened, it happened really early. And
Yeah.
so I think people didn't have that much chance to build stuff up. But my role as the betrayer was to expose as much of the house as I could, find all the windows, and every one I did, I got a specter or whatever it was. And so we got a lot out afterwards. And I think, and this is one of the things I like about it, when I'm the betrayer, I have no idea what you guys are trying to do. You guys don't really know what I'm trying to do. We're trying to flesh that out. But I think you guys were trying to find rooms too. And so we both had, we're trying to expose as much of the house as we could to find things. And that really did. We got a lot of tiles out by the end.
Yeah, I agree. But my first positive on this was painted minifigs. Can we not talk about that a little bit? So most of the games we play, all the minifigs are the same color. They're one sort of plastic. this game, you get painted minifigs. That's pretty cool.
Yay.
Yay. Okay. Second point, a positive for me was some of the item names were hilarious. I'm sorry. Some of the most funniest moments that I think I played a game in the last month was when Chris, pulls out a pulsating spear.
I wrote down, how about that throbbing spear?
I know, right? I mean, like, come on now. I mean, to me, that was just great comedic relief here.
Walking around with my throbbing spear.
We were all running from that.
Yeah.
He was trying to wake Emerson
I was going
up.
to say, I think Chris threatened to wake me up with that.
Which was very somatic. But I mean, to me, I think if you're playing this game, you should get a speaker somewhere.
Yeah.
Go to Mellow Dice,
Yes.
type in the name of this game, and have that music playing in the background. Because to me, if this game had no music, it would be way less fun. I think the way we played it with some music in the background got to, like you said, like that theme comes out a little bit more. And so to me, that was great storytelling a little bit.
And I think Mellow Dice has, sometimes you play the tunes on Mellow Dice and it's like, why is, what is this?
Yeah.
The music was excellent. It was a spooky little setting that we played in. So that was great.
Absolutely. So what I was trying to get at earlier, real quick, my positive of this game was kind of what you were talking about, Daniela, with the flipping the tiles, is just that moment of finding that hidden gem or that thing that you just absolutely needed. So I know when Chris was the betrayer and we all were trying to find specific items and we were trying to find specific rooms, when we flipped that tile and we found it, we're silently and secretly looking at each other and we're going, yes. So I think that's a fun aspect of this game. And I'm sure you did that yourself.
I came and killed you.
Well, yeah. I'm sure you did that with your windows as well.
Yes. Quite happy to find a window, as I always am.
There you go.
Has anybody actually explored an abandoned house in real life?
Absolutely not.
No?
I mean, just
No.
I'm dead on the doorstep. I'm just frightened, terrified.
So I did. I back in high school, me and my buddy we found this old abandoned barn, and we used to go and just kind of hang out and have fun messing around, and there was a house right next to it that was also abandoned, and one day we went in. It was middle of the day. It was spooky as all get out in it. It's middle of the day, but this is an abandoned house, literally 20, 25 years. It's dark as all get out in there, except for what's coming through the cracks. We went up to the top level. Again, crazy spooky. I've never been happier than when I came out of that house, but I still have that memory. I mean, gosh, that was 30 plus years ago. Still have that memory in my head.
Should have took the mystic elevator out.
Yeah, I couldn't find it. I kept putting new tiles down, but I couldn't find it.
And I think before we move on to our frustrations, the other best moment that I had compared to Horrified is you're rolling dice, and Horrified, you roll dice, but you're only rolling 3, and there's only 2 faces that show. With Betrayal, you're rolling dice, and though you're not getting a 1 through 6 on the dice, you're still rolling more than 3 dice, and you're rolling numbers. And I like that. I like that component in games. Does anybody else here at this table like rolling dice? Because I just think if you got a game with rolling dice, I'm gonna like it.
I very much enjoy rolling.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a little more chancy, a little bit more.
Absolutely.
Yeah, like you have to do what that says.
So the other thing I like about those dice is the haunt, where every time you pull an omen card out, you have to roll to see if the haunt phase starts. And there is, especially as you get 3, 4, 5 omens, there's some tension there. Is the haunt going to start? Is the haunt going to start? And I think I might have caused the haunt the second time when I had just this horrible roll. But we had some pretty good rolls in at least one of the games we played to stretch that out.
Yeah, and one of the things with the dice is there's blank sides, so it's nothing. There's 1 and 2, and there's nothing else. I think it took us a couple rolls, and I'm like, oh, I'm going to get like all 5s, and everybody's like looking at me like, no, there's only 3 up to 2 on each side. So that I think that made it a little tighter too, which I liked. I really liked not having certain sides of dice come out, which is cool.
Absolutely. So moving into our frustrations, one of my frustrations was the second time that we played around, the haunt just started way too fast, way too quickly, and we weren't able to explore as many rooms, and we weren't able to collect as many objects or different events that we could have. Whereas if, the haunt didn't happen so soon. And I know, David, you felt that way as well.
Yeah, I definitely did. I don't know who rolled those dice because I think we were only on 4 and somebody rolled less than 4.
Yeah, I don't know who that was.
I think it was Emily.
Who was that?
But yeah, I mean, that's something that, to bounce off of you, to me, I don't know how terribly balanced it is sometimes. Like, I think you can get really Sweeney games, meaning that like one game can be, very competitive when the trader leaves the room and you come back and you're pretty evenly matched The other game, when Chris came back and, we were, like we said, we only had 4 Omen cards flipped. It was going to be very hard for the 4 of us to pull out a victory in that point, especially because I think 5 of the rooms that we needed weren't even up yet. And we had to search for the deck. So not only did we have to keep exploring, but we had to try to keep Chris's monsters at bay as they were coming to try to kill us.
Well, and then I have to ask, so you're mentioning that I think you said 4 out of the 5 rooms weren't exposed or flipped over yet, but I think that kind of offset the fact that you didn't have too many windows in the game yet.
Correct. And I only started, I think, with 1 Spectre or whatever it was called.
Mm-hmm.
But then, again, we were both left to explore, and it didn't matter who exposed a window. Once it did, I got one out. But yeah, I started wondering, well, how am I going to do this? I've only got this 1 ghost. But then relatively quickly, I had 4 or 5 buddies trying to wreak havoc on you guys. So it did end up going in my favor. But yeah, I was a little bit hampered too.
Sure you were. I was just messing.
Just for a couple turns.
I think one of my frustrations with this was just the time it took to take the haunt book for the haunt to happen and understand that fully. There was, in my opinion, it should have been way more streamlined, easier to do that. I was never the person who had to get haunted, so I'm interested to hear both Chris and Emerson, your thoughts there, because for me, that was just, it was almost like a middle buzzkill. Like you're going through this, the haunt happens, and then you got to step away. And then, I don't know, I think if I was even like you, with what you had, Emerson, your objective, I would have been frustrated to try and understand that and get it out and then set it up. And it's just you.
You can't ask anybody anything.
Yeah.
Everything has to be secret.
But then nobody ever knows if you actually broke a rule or something.
True,
For what
but
it's worth.
then I don't know.
Did you
just-
kill us? And
No.
Yeah, right.
Chris totally broke the rules.
You'll never know. You'll never know. No, I can understand that. And I've seen some tutorials that say, hey, don't try to rush it. When the haunt happens, make sure you know what you're doing. And I think they're right, because if you don't know what you're doing, then you're going to have a situation potentially like the first one where, hey, that just didn't seem right? But then if you do it, then you got this big buzzkill for like 15, 20 minutes or whatever it is, where we're trying to figure out what are we supposed to do here. And then the whole time we're playing it, I'm still thinking, am I doing something wrong?
Yeah.
Am I doing this
It should
right? Or
have
what?
been way easier.
Yeah, I know. When I was the betrayer, I was referring back to my notes that I had written down while reading the book, and referring back to the book that I had read when you guys were attacking, and I'm like, actually, I'm not sure that I'm doing this correctly, but I think this is what's supposed to happen. And whoever already alluded to it, saying can't really ask the group because that's just a dead giveaway. So I feel like frustration of mine, how I kind of already mentioned, was if you don't know enough about the game, or I don't know, like, to me, just put a little like indicator in the haunt book maybe and say, refer to this, refer to the rule book to know about X, Y, and Z.
There are so many instructions. Just talk about all the rule books.
There are at least 3 rule books, right?
Yeah, there's only 3.
Only 3, but they're decent sized rule books.
Yeah,
They're not
that's-
light reads.
No, that's
But the
Well, you're only
interesting
reading
thing,
1 page.
but we still got started relatively quick. When I first started watching tutorials, I was like, oh my gosh, this is complicated. And then it finally clicks, and you're like, okay, this isn't so hard. And the first phase is relatively easy. And then, as we've kind of said, when you get to the haunt, then it's like, okay, now it just got really complicated. And again, if you miss a couple things, Emily, like you said in that first rule book, you still may be doing something wrong and not even know it, because it's buried in the original. So that was tough.
Yeah, I mean, another complaint I have, and is just about the components of this game, especially the player cards with the clips that come with the game. It's just very hard to tell what levels you're at, just because it doesn't. If you play this game, you'll look at like health or something, or like a mental thing, and it'll say like 2, 3, 4, but it could go 4, 4, and then a 5 and a 6, and then a 7. And you have this clip that doesn't like to stay on there. You have 4 of them on a single card. And so you're always fidgeting with it. And so to me, that was a big negative, because half the time, I was like, does everybody actually know where they're at? Or you see somebody else like bump something and maybe it's pointing to the wrong number. It could come back to haunt you. So that was frustrating just from a component standpoint. I think that, I like to bring up sometimes when I see something like that. But like kind of they're all alluding to, I play this game probably more than most of the people at the table. And I will say it's a hard game when you have people that know how to play the game and you're trying to bring in like just 1 or 2 new people, because it seems like every time I play this game and we bring in like, 2 new people to play it, one of them always is the traitor. It's like you just don't want them to be, so they could be with a group. And for whatever reason, it's like the person is like going to have a hard time with it. somehow almost always ends up being it. And I don't know, like I've played this game multiple times and I feel like that happens more often than not. So I do get the frustration level, especially if you haven't played it a lot, that it is a lot to put on somebody. And it's always that person that, oh, it's my first time and everybody else has played it and that person's a
Yeah,
traitor.
I was dreading being the betrayer. If like we had all played this like so many times and we all knew the rules like really well, I'd probably be excited.
Yeah.
But like none of us have played this game enough to like really understand like how the game is really supposed to look after the haunt. And I thought that was a huge drawback for me because I was like, I don't want to be like rooting against myself to not be the betrayer because that's supposed to be a fun part of the game.
Right.
But then I'm like, please no, please no, please no.
In fact, didn't it pick you and then you're like,
Yep, I
I'm
gave it
giving
away.
Chris.
I'm like, oh, Chris, you want to sit over here?
So,
Which I thought was a good compromise to where
I think it is.
I wanted to be the betrayer, but when you do that, I ended up taking Emily's character over and vice versa because I think the haunt, I'm assuming the designers were like, okay,
Yes.
they tell you who the person is that is going to be the betrayer, and a lot of times it'll be the person with the lowest X, characteristic, and I'm assuming there's a reason for that. And so if you do that, just have that person take over the other person's spot to make sure that nothing's kind of thrown off.
One last question for the group about this game, and it's about downtime. So in Horrified, the group dies simultaneously. So if your character in Horrified dies, you get to respawn and you can continue playing the game. But in Betrayal, once you die after the haunt, hey, you're out of the game. So did anybody feel like, for those of you that, passed on a little too soon or prematurely, did you feel like there was too much downtime?
Sorry.
Yeah, I think I died first, and then it was just kind of as soon as Chris started picking us off one by one, a couple of us came out, and then it was just between like two people kind of going back and forth. Not necessarily downtime. I mean, I guess I'm still kind of actively helping, like, oh, let's do this or go do that. Like I'm still engaged in. But I guess, not having a turn. I guess it went a lot faster. It zoomed through doing that. But yeah, I guess what that leads to a frustration for me was I wasn't able to get more health, more knowledge, more anything the entire time I played. I don't know if anybody else ended up doing that, but I think it was just a straight downward spiral for me both times. So
I think David camped out in the library in one of our games to where you kind of jacked up your knowledge just in case.
Yeah, I was trying to do some stuff. I was just trying to let Daniela die a lot, so.
It worked. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of player elimination, and I was a little worried once I learned that was going to happen. But I do feel like once that started to happen, at least in our game where people were dying, it ended relatively fast after that. Because I think as a player eliminates, that just means I, as the betrayer, am getting my turns faster.
Yeah.
Hey, look, you just flipped a tile and found a wad of cash. So you got cash, but you want to know how much this game is because you're interested in buying this game. David, how much can you buy this game for?
Yeah, so right now we played the second edition, and the second edition game you can find on Amazon for about $45. There is a new edition, though, that just came out. It's the third edition. I think there's some rule cleanups and some other stuff in that game, so hopefully it's more streamlined. That game goes for about $54 on Amazon, so just a little bit more. But I would say right now, you can find a copy of this on eBay. It's been around for a long time. There's a lot of copies out there, and there's a lot of people that get frustrated with this game. So I would say if you're looking on the used market, anywhere between $10, $25, I think you can find this game, especially or even a trade. I think somebody would trade with you if you really want to get your hands on it. But I think the value is probably somewhere between like $25 and $40 for the second edition. If you're trying to buy new, I would be happy with that price if you're looking for that. And it gives you about 90-minute playtime. That's how Lana was running us both games.
Alrighty, guys. It is time for the thumbs up or thumbs down. If we feel like Betrayal played well at a player count of 5, we'll give it a thumbs up. But if we don't feel like that it played well at 5, then we'll give it a thumbs down. Emily, we'll start with you. Are you giving Betrayal a thumbs up or a thumbs down?
I'm going to give Betrayal a thumbs down at 5 players. I didn't feel like it was cooperative enough for me to be engaged throughout everybody else's turns. So it really did feel like it took a long time to go around the table and come back to my turn so I could flip a tile and grab a card. So I'm going to give this a thumbs down because I was waiting and waiting.
Yeah, for me on this one, I'm actually going to give a thumbs up. I mean, it plays 3 to 6, but for me, I would never play it at a lower player count than I think at least 5. It just is more fun if there's more people, but you have to have the right group of people. I mean, you have to know kind of what you're getting into. It's more of a story / exploration type type of event, but I would never play this at a low player count. I think higher player count, it plays way better. So to me, 5 players, I give it a thumbs up.
I think parroting off of what David just said, I think I'll give this a thumbs up at this 5-player count game. I agree. I probably would not enjoy playing it at a lower count. So yeah, thumbs up for me for this one.
Yeah, I will also give this a thumbs up. There was a little bit of downtime, but again, I think the ambiance that we had going on helped to make it fun, and just kind of the tension that when you do have 5 players, and especially once the haunt happens, just there's tension of what's going to happen while I can't take my turn, and I thought that helped a little bit. So thumbs up for me.
I'm going to give it a thumbs up because that's more possibility of me not having to be the betrayer. But it's also just the same thing as Horrified. It's the social aspect. The more players you have around the table, I think the better time you'll have. All right, so it sounds like Betrayal at House on the Hill receives 4 thumbs up and 1 thumbs down. We're going to take a short break, but stick around because when we come back, we'll be putting our 2 games head-to-head in our Battle of the Funnest. All right, everyone, the moment of truth has arrived. It's time to separate the men from the boys, or more appropriately, the games from the toys. We're going to put these 2 games head-to-head for the ultimate face-off. In one corner, standing at a 7.7 overall rating with a weight of 2.05 on BGG, are your frenzied monsters, Horrified. And in the other corner, standing with a 7.0 rating and weighing in at 2.39 on BGG, is your haunting betrayer, Betrayal at House on the Hill. Let's find out which one is the last game standing in this Battle of the Funnest showdown. Okay, guys, you walk into a room and you see 2 groups of people playing 2 different games. You want to play both, but you only have time for one more before you go trick-or-treating. Which table are you walking toward and why? David, I'll start with you.
Yeah, so this one was hard for me. I do have a lot of good memories of both of these games. You know, from Emily saying, yeah, I'm back in the hospital again, and Horrified, to Chris's pulsating spear. It was very, very hard for me to pick one or the other. I did have a little bit more laughs, though, in this game, so I'm going to go with it. But it's a close one. I'm going with Betrayal, House at the Hill.
Wow. All right. Well, I think I'm going to go to the table that has Horrified. I like the overall theme better in Horrified. I like the play board. I liked the interaction better. I like, again, even the characters. If I'm watching even scary movies or anything like that, it's definitely going to be with vampires, werewolves, and things like that. So I am going to Horrified.
Yeah, this is a tough one for me, too. I enjoyed both of them. I think it might depend who's sitting at each table, but I know we're not allowed to do that.
Well, David's sitting at one and I'm sitting at one.
Well, just don't tell me which one, who's sitting where. But, yeah, I'm going to go with, this is a tough one. I'm going to go with Horrified. I think when we look at the groups and the games that we played together here, I had a little more fun with Horrified. There was a lot more interaction, so that takes it for me. Horrified.
I'm going to do Horrified too. This is not a hard pick for me at all. I love the different monsters and the different puzzles we're solving. And I also love the interaction of a true co-op where we're all discussing, okay, I can do this and you can do this. So let's work towards this goal. It just shown a lot better. It just worked a lot better in Horrified than it did Betrayal. So I'm going with Horrified.
Okie dokie, this may take you by surprise, but I'm going to go with Betrayal.
What?
As much as I wouldn't say hate, as much as I try to avoid having to be the betrayer, I really would like to be the betrayer one day and actually know what I'm doing. So there's that factor. And I think also, I don't know, like Horrified, I think when we came in and someone said, oh, you didn't like Horrified? And I said, yeah, I didn't go home thinking about it. Yeah, I really didn't go home thinking about it because I just couldn't remember anything that happened. And for me, if that happens with a game, it just means that it didn't do it for me. Horrified, I couldn't even tell you what happened. But Betrayal, there's a lot of exploration, and I don't know, there is some randomness, but I like the flipping the tiles, working together with items and omens and all that good stuff. So for that reason, I'm going to go with Betrayal. You heard it here, folks. Horrified wins with a 3-2 score. And that is going to bring this episode to an end, folks. If you liked what you just heard and want to hear more, do me a favor, if you haven't already, hit that like button and stay tuned for our next episode. Your views and your support make this podcast possible, so please continue to share and tell your friends and family. Thank you for listening. And as always, keep gaming. Goodbye, everyone. I have a surprise, but I'm just gonna put it out there when
I love surprises.
when it's the time.
Me too.
Are we winning money?
Yeah, me too, for what it's worth.
Did you
No.
bring snacks?
No.
First follower wins $100 from Chris.
Wait a
It's
minute.
amazing.
Wait a minute.
Oh, play them your Halloween song.
That was the surprise, man.
Ouch.
That was a surprise.
Well, you're not going to test it out first
No,
before
we
we just
got it.
throw it in.
It's good.
I'm not testing my surprise out. You're just going to have to deal with it.
That was the wrong one. Sorry.
Yeah. See, I told you. We got to test it out first. I told you.
No, I just hit the wrong button. That's okay.
Join our OnlyFans for pics.
Join our OnlyFans for weenie pics.
There you go.
Hey, Daniela. Hey, how
Talking to
are
yourself
you?
again.
The third person.
Now, Chris, I'm going to play the Halloweeny song, and then I'll play the normal music that we use to have in the background as you do your explanation.
That's me. I'm squeaking like
Chris,
crazy.
quit
That's
squeaking.
that's,
You're going
I don't know
back
what
and
to
you're
do.
going back and forth.
always
Sit
go back.
forward on the edge with your butt on the edge of the chair.
I always go back and forth.
Sit.
Can sub you
Stay.
out for a wood chair if you want a wood. Like you want just a solid chair.
Give me some wood, David.
No, thanks.
I will
You want me
squeak. I'm going to move.
Okay.
That's what I do. I fidget. Yeah. So luckily I was amazing during that one. Yeah.
And Dracula, too. Wow.
Yeah,
Good
that was
job,
impressive.
man.
Yeah, I was afraid that wasn't going to
Where'd he
work.
go?
No,
So-
that was impressive.
I've been practicing rolling my R's or whatever that's called. I forgot to say good evening, though.
Did you watch, what's that? Did you watch
Hotel
Despicable Me?
Transylvania.
Oh, yeah. Hotel Transylvania.
Blah, 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 blah.
I thought about going blah, blah, blah. But
What you doing? Hiding the stash over there?
take a little trick-or-treat action here.
Will you get away from there when you're chewing? That's disgusting.
I'm done chewing.
I have more frustrations.
Oh my god!
Okay,
Okay, go ahead, Chris.
What?
I thought you loved losing. Let's go.
I do. Well, come on. I do love losing, but
I didn't get kicked in the groin enough.
exactly. One more kick in the groin is what. No.
Something like the New Jersey Devil or something.
Yeah, and I
Oh,
don't
the
even know what that
Mothman.
is.
What about the
Oh,
Mothman?
is that on
Yeah.
there?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Oh
yeah.
yeah, that makes sense.
It does?
Yeah.
Chupacabra.
Mothman Prophecies? It's huge down in like West Virginia or wherever that's
Yeah.
from. Yeah.
Really?
There's
I
a
grew up
statue
by
and
West
everything.
Virginia.
There's a statue.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's a lot of monster sightings and stories in Alaska too. If you
Because
ever
you're so
watch
cold, you're
Missing
seeing-
in Alaska,
Yes, I love that show.
yeah, there's a lot of Bigfoot sightings and whatnot. Okay,
Ken, call us
Lake Erie Monster.
It's because Bigfoot is
Represent
real.
hometown.
Boo.
with their like
ability.
goal.
Okay,
Goal.
I would just.
I'm gonna help this player say that again.
Well, it sounds like Horrified received 4 thumbs up. Yep, I'm gonna start that over.
That may be linked to the impending tragedy. Damn it, I gotta start over.
It's okay.
Tragedy. What the hell's a tragedy?
It's okay.
I was gonna say I don't know. You're just.
Wait, hang on, don't go yet.
There's the impending
Obviously.
tragedy. There it was.
Wait, can't you start from a?
I got the music in the background because
Oh.
I'm stupid and asked for it. That means you have to start from the.
Yeah, I'm just gonna play the Halloween.
Are you
then.
gonna play the Halloween one again?
Yeah.
Were you laughing? I see you kind of doing this. I
No,
was like,
it's
oh my
over
God,
my
is there a
mouth while I was
spider?
chewing.
I thought
No.
there was like a spider over my head and I can't concentrate.
It'd be more fun if I put that bug on you, but yeah.
Yeah.
Everybody good?
I've played this twice.
Oh, okay.
I don't even know what that means.
I like Windows.
Yeah. Is there a bug?
Yeah.
Is it really big?
No,
Emerson's scared of bugs.
I saw Daniela go.
Clackers.
it's just a stink bug, right?
Yeah, it's just a stink
Even
bug.
Oh,
I'm
if
okay
it's a
with-
stink bug,
even
then
I'm
I
okay
don't
Yeah,
care.
it's just
Yeah.
a big stink bug spider thing that's coming down from the sea. No, it's
It's about to betray us.
Okay, everybody, clear your throat.
But I'm okay now.
Oh, okay.
Now that you mention it,
He just loves Barrage that much.
Base game plus anxiety and depression.
I think part of what hit us with that is we played all the expansions, but you have to play at least
Yeah.
the one, right? So to get the 5.
Anybody need
When
any
you're
potty breaks?
doing-